Hello and welcome to the Service-Based Business Society podcast. I am your host, Tiffany-Ann. On our weekly episodes, we will dig into everything you need to know about scaling your service-based business without losing sleep. With my experience in creating over 7 figures per month and a passion for marketing, finance, and automation, this show will provide tangible tips and techniques for scaling your business. Let's get started. Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of the Service-Based Business Society podcast. Today we have a very special guest and one that I truly enjoyed connecting with, talking about things that I didn't necessarily even understand the power of until we got talking. So today we're going to be chatting with Renata Constable. Now her story is one of coming face to face with the emotional abuse she received as a child and making the journey from fear and negative self-talk to the freedom of self-acceptance through power of empathy. Now, we've talked about negative self-talk here on the podcast a few times, and Renata really brings a perspective that I cannot wait to share with you. Today, she's on a mission to help ambitious women break free from self-doubt and fear and lead with authenticity, confidence, and joy. Her clients love her straightforward yet full of empathy approach, leaving them with a sense of clarity and action steps that make their dreams feel closer than ever. Renata is a certified empathy-based life and business coach. She is a CliftonStrengths communicator, Dare to Lead trained, and team facilitator. She has been a wife for the last 19 years and a mom of 3 teenagers. She believes every single one of us is created as a unique individual with a unique purpose. Guys, I cannot wait to share this discussion with you, and I welcome you to connect in the group after and ask some questions, get the conversation going around this topic, because negative self-talk really affects everyone of all ages, of all backgrounds at one point or another. And if someone tells you that they have never had negative self-talk, they're lying. It's that moment of, am I doing the right thing? Should I be doing this? Do I really know what I'm doing? Oh no, people are going to see through. They're going to see that I don't really know what I'm talking about. Because no matter what, no matter how confident we are in certain parts, no one is confident in all of the parts. And so working through some of these pieces and really looking at fear straight on can offer an entirely different perspective. So welcome to the show, Renata. I'm super excited to dive into the topic of fear and utilizing it for positive instead of negative. So tell me a little bit about yourself and kind of what you are offering in terms of fear. Tell me about your business.
Hi, Tiffany. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me and for being here and for being willing to open the conversation of, fear being our ally, not our friend, not our enemy. For the past 5 years, I have worked with, women from all kinds of paths. Those fresh transitioning into their first jobs, and those women who have had their jobs for a long time, and now they're transitioning to their own businesses. And they are realizing, well, I want to work for myself. I want to add value to this world, and I want to do something that has heart and soul, and I want to share with the world my experience. And my story is similar. For 15, 20 years, I worked in corporate world, and up until my 30s, I actually didn't realize how much my personal trauma baggage I carried from my childhood and adolescent years. And it was during that transition from, corporate to nonprofit and doing work with women, mentoring, coaching, helping, developing leaders, building teams. Up until then, I didn't realize how much fear or my anger are holding me back. And I am treating them as something is wrong with me. Everybody else seems to have it all figured out. They're also confident. Why am I running into the same walls? And I see that in my clients. I saw it in my own life. And at some point I realized, okay, there has to be some secret to it. But when I started digging into secrets of confidence, I have, I have realized that, confident people are afraid as well. That confident people are not afraid. That's a myth. That everybody gets afraid because just, fear is primal. It's there to actually help us and protect us, right? That's how it served at the beginning. So this is what happened. That's why that's what I've been doing for the past 5 years.
It's such an interesting topic, and it actually really resonated for me. The confident people and feeling fear. In my first 3 years of my undergraduate degree, I did a communications minor, and one of the courses that we did was all public speaking. And so each student would go, and each week they would go and run the class. So they would come up with the agenda and the topics, and they would have all these presenters. And I remember, and it was all videoed, and then you had to watch the video back and critique yourself. And so my professor said, "Oh, you look so confident. You look, you're not nervous at all." And I'm looking at the video and I thought, I don't look nervous, but my gosh, the insides were nervous. And I was like, okay, so there was like this thing of like the insides are not matching the outsides. Because he was like, "Oh, see how confident Tiffany-Ann is." And I was like, "Oh, wow. I mean, fake it till you make it, I guess, because the inside is telling you I am nervous." Yes.
Yeah, this happens all the time. I mean, this is what a lot, and so for some women, watching other women, the big influences, Michelle Obama, Beyonce, all the big names, we're like, oh man, they have figured it out. They're so confident. But then they're also our coworkers, the people we work with, our students, our friends that just seem to have that air of confidence around them. Really, as you're saying, right? You looked confident, but everything in you was just shaking. You just figured out the way to move with that fear and to dance with that fear. And some people have it naturally, and there are times when it's easier and there are times when it's harder. I think maybe when the stakes are higher, we get a little more paralyzed. Or maybe when we get older and we realize, oh man, this is bigger than I thought it is. But there are times when we give into that fear. And one of my favorite sayings is, do it afraid. Well, because technically there is no other way to do it. How do you build your confidence? Doing exactly the thing that you are afraid of.
Yes.
So if you're gonna do exactly the thing that you're afraid of, you need to do it afraid. So I remember I posted on my personal profile on Facebook this picture of moving out of comfort zone. And there's this gray comfort zone where it's safe and predictable and certain. And then there is a little darker fear zone where all that self-doubt, negative self-talk, judgment, self-judgment, and fear of others. Yeah, that's a mucky middle where we need to move through to get to the growth zone where we all want to be, right? The zone where we actually defining our own terms of how we live and how we're going to run our business and how we're going to show up in those new roles in the workplaces. And my friend commented and she pushed back on that post so much. She said the coaching gurus need to stop telling people to get out of the comfort zone because it actually is harming people. And I paused and I was like, okay, what's going on here, right? Because normally everybody talks like that's where magic happens. That's where adventure happens. Mm-hmm. When you get out of your comfort zone, that's where miracles happen. But I was like, okay, for some people, it's a very uncomfortable conversation. But why is that? And I have realized, so I went and Googled like what, this comfort zone and fear, and the terms that you find for fear, are to deal with fear, are to fight your fear or to deny your fear or to destroy your fear. Those are pretty combative statements. But when you are moving out of your comfort zone and you're afraid, your system, your nervous system is flooded by the stress hormone, by the cortisol. So you are already pretty stressed out. So everything in you tenses up because what? Your body is getting ready to fight, flight, or freeze. Because what it's trying to do, your brain is doing its job. It's trying to say, listen, you're getting out of safety. It's dangerous world out there. The only difference is right now we don't have to be afraid of the dinosaurs. We don't have to be afraid of some wild animal coming and bring our arms out. Right now, all these fears are our internal. Unless you're coming back home in the middle of the night and you're in a shady alley between the dark buildings and you see some guy creeping in the back. Well, maybe it's good time to turn around and walk away. But in normal circumstances, those fears are internalized. It's your brain trying to tell you it's not safe. Stay safe. Play it small. Don't do anything crazy. Don't do new things. So this is the moment when some women, not just women, people pull back and they give in to that fear. And what do? They close in because they want that nervous system to kind of disarm itself. But there is a better way to do it. And it's not combative. It's not to deny it. It's not to pretend that fake it till you make it. It's all good for your pep talk right before a public speaking. When you get on, you look stand in front of your mirror, put that makeup on and you go, you got this, girl. And it works for that pep talk. But to build the grounded confidence, the one that every time you can fall back and say, okay, that's my experience. I've been here before. I've done new things. I've grown. I've made risky decisions. I took risks. I made new connections. And you can draw on these experiences to do them again in a new context. But the better way to move through fear is actually through self-compassion. It's actually to meet yourself and recognize, oh, okay, there is a part of me that's afraid. But that part of me is not afraid because it's trying to destroy my growth. It's actually trying to protect me. So how about I recognize it and say, thank you for showing up. Of course you're afraid. Of course you're afraid. We're about to go live on a podcast. Of course you're afraid because you're about to go live on your Facebook group, or you're about for the first time to put that crazy TikTok out there, or for the first time you're going to be speaking in public, or you're going to be facilitating a group of women, or maybe you're going to be doing, the TED Talk. So of course you're afraid. And instead of going, pretending and denying, you keep flooding your system with more stress if you try to deny that you're stressed and that you're scared. I always keep saying that it's like trying to extinguish the fire by pouring more gasoline onto it. So instead of trying to fight the fear, go, okay, I am afraid. Okay, everybody gets afraid. What do I need right now? I can take a deep breath. What can I be thankful for in this moment? Oh, I have a new opportunity. If I'm afraid, that means I'm growing. That means I'm learning. That means I am doing what? I am expanding. I want to say I'm becoming bigger. So then with fear, when you realize that instead of closing in and becoming smaller, because that's what fear is trying to do, keep you small, so that others won't judge. Yes. Nobody, what is this person going to think? You're stupid. Okay, maybe, but let's just do it. You're afraid. Let's just go. I remember I had this client back in December. She was she was an entrepreneur, and for a while she was, trying to get her business going. And she finally called to me and we met, and she's like, you know what? I need your help. I'm tired of sitting on my hands and doing nothing. So one question led to another, and we established that she's absolutely horrified. Media, she's afraid to put herself out there, to start showing up, to be visible, to start posting on social media, to reach out to people, to tell people about even what she does. And so I asked her about, so what does this fear look like? And she she drew this picture for me of her office, and that there's this big scary demon sitting at her desk. And I asked her a question, well, what do you think that demon needs? And she went back and said, oh, I never thought about that. It actually might need something. So, in a course of our I think we've met for 5 weeks or 6 weeks. She started taking that demon out for walks. She started going with that demon, started listening to this fear, saying, okay, what can you learn from that fear? What is it trying to tell you? And it transitioned. And she said that at the end, she was ready to start building her business from a place of love rather than fear. Because she recognized that, oh my gosh, it's part of me. Because a lot of times when we start fighting our own emotions, that's true not just about fear. That's true about anxiety. That's true about our anger. That's true with all these emotions where we are uncomfortable. It's true with our inner critic. When it's like, oh, you shut up, you just don't talk, stop talking. Okay. What if it doesn't want something from you? What if it does want something for you? And when we start being attentive to those parts, we actually embrace and integrate ourselves. Because if we fight these parts, we ultimately are fighting ourselves. That was my discovery. I mean, my personal story is coming to face with a childhood emotional abuse. And for the longest time, I thought it was something wrong with me. That, I am too angry, too afraid. There was always something too about me.
Yes.
And
too.
it was until I realized, oh, wait, that's just part of me. Why am I fighting me? So yeah, so that's always fun for me to see my clients going through that switch when I was like, oh, I actually want something.
I find transformation is such a powerful thing to witness. It's when you're, whether it's someone going from kind of that introverted, shy, holding back, and then saying, no, I'm showing up for my business, and I can do that while still being introverted, while still being shy, but that transformation of, no, I deserve for my message to be heard. I want my business to run. And ultimately, it's, if you have a message to share with the world, whether you're shy, whether you don't want to be on camera, all of these things, if you want to share it, it's this transition of, okay, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna step out and share my message with the world. It's fantastic. That transformation piece for me is really fills my cup, if you will, being a part of business and people, personal development, transformation. I love it. I love it so much. This episode is brought to you by Eleanor. Eleanor helps you create an automated business and provides a custom-tailored solution to track conversions and metrics, deliver workflows, and provide you with all of the tools you need to succeed. Eleanor ensures you can go from an overwhelmed business owner to a confident CEO that has more time, less stress, and bigger profits. As a listener of the show, you can get 25% off with the discount code SOCIETY. Go to eleanor.io and use code SOCIETY. That's ELENORE.io, discount code SOCIETY. So you were talking about, this personal transformation of your own, and knowing that you had this trauma that you needed to work through, and now you're helping coach others. At what part of your life did you realize you wanted it to be different? At what part did you say, hey, this is a problem, and I want to change the outcome?
See, for me, the biggest transformation happened for my personal reasons. I was already in my 30s, and I had my children. They were very, very young, and I had 3 beautiful kids. I had a loving husband, and I have realized that I started repeating in my life some of the behaviors that I was raised with by, things that my mom did or my grandmother did, in terms of being verbally abusive, being passive aggressive, being angry. And so my first reason was, I don't want to do this to my children. I don't want to be that mom who's always angry, or who is always, who's never clear about her expectations, who is always expecting that others will gets my mind and gets my thoughts and what I want. And then I realized that the same things that are kind of, what's the good word here? Who are making me toxic at home are making me
Mm-hmm.
toxic in my relationships at work. My husband and I, we led international startup project in Warsaw, Poland, and we were recruiting and developing leaders. We were building people up. I was coaching and mentoring women, right? And there was still this stuff inside me that was where I could see the jealousy being there, or the bitterness being there, or I was easily falling judgment. And I realized that same things that I didn't want for my children, I finally wanted them to be gone from my life. As in, I wanted to understand what the heck is going on. Because before I was, I was in advertising and PR, and I was doing really well, and I had these good executive jobs, but it was always high intensity, always fast. That was one of the things I've realized, that I was moving super fast in my life just so that I can quickly move past a lot of uncomfortable conversations and a lot of uncomfortable encounters at work. So it started as my, as a mother, but then I realized that those toxic behaviors, I'm pushing them down, but I am not resolving them. So I wasn't able to really meet people from a place of self-acceptance because I was rejecting myself. Therefore, I was super judgmental of others. I wasn't in a place of integrated life with, thoughts, feelings, actions. Those were not always matched up. My feelings, my actions would be, I'm all there for you and with you, but my thoughts and my feelings were not lining up. So I knew it wasn't aligned. And that started bugging me. So, and then I really thought I was covering it up really well. And then there was this friend, this new person I've met, and he showed up a few times to our different events, and we were becoming friends. And at some point he came up to me and he said, you know, I know this therapist who helps people with problems like yours. And I was like, what problem do I have? So I thought I was
Yeah.
doing such a good job covering it all up, but it wasn't a good job, obviously. The world knew. So my first reaction
Oh,
was, as everybody's first reactions, I pushed back. But then I took few deep breaths, and I realized, you know what? If I want different results, maybe it's time to try a new path. Stop repeating the same mistakes. Stop running into the same walls. Because it seemed like I've done everything. I read all the self-help books. I listened to all the audiobooks that I was supposed to listen to. Done all the work, all the things that I was supposed to do, trying to build new habits. But really what I was doing, I was fighting the old, and I was fighting all these emotions and all these feelings and my old self, rather than focusing on what's in front of me and building a new, on grounded, sort of on some steady ground. So yeah, so I went to the therapist, and then I started working with a coach, and that's when I started working with a coach. Everything moved forward, and that she was very strong on empathy. One of the things that I use with my clients is a nonviolent communication, which basically, in a nutshell, is the principle that there is no bad or good feelings. They're just feelings. You just, they're here. They move through us. We don't have to get hijacked by them. And that made a huge difference in my life, but I'm also seeing it makes difference in other people's lives. And when I started unpacking all these things, as you can probably imagine, a lot of stories of people who overcome trauma is very similar. At first, it's very uncomfortable, so you fight it, so you don't want to do it. But then, when you let go, when you stop doing this, but you actually open up
mhm.
and you meet yourself with
Yes.
that empathy and that self-compassion, and with the gratitude, you start changing your story. You stop being a victim of your story, you're becoming a hero of your story, and you're allowing all these old things to actually fall away, and they become a rubble. And in that rubble, you start finding your strength and your skills and your experiences. And that's where you can be grateful for everything you've experienced, because everything that I've experienced led me to be who I am today, and appreciate a lot of things that I can do with women who experience trauma and refuse to do things, refuse to ask for help, and live in the whole I can do it all alone. That's one of the, myths of being a successful entrepreneur, right? I can do it alone. No, you can't. Let's be honest.
It's interesting because people I often hear, so on the off time of the podcast and all things we have going on here, I do full service business management. And so we do things like social media and marketing and all these types of things. And so for an entrepreneur, we often see those who have been really talented or really passionate. Those are the two, and they've started a business based on their talent or their passion. None of which usually is like social media marketing or, writing blogs necessarily, or building web pages or setting up all of these things. And it's like, okay, well, I need to learn first. I need to grow my business. I need to learn all of these skills. I need to do all of these things. And then when I'm ready, then I can teach someone else.
Yeah.
And it's such a reversed concept, because ultimately I truly believe that you need to know enough that you can have a knowledgeable conversation with someone. But I don't think that an entrepreneur needs to learn all of these skills. They don't need to learn all of the things, because sometimes you have to do something once or twice. And so taking all of this time and it taking 10 times as long because someone's like, no, I'll do it myself. I'll figure it out. And it's like, but you're spinning your tires. You're pushing off actually being able to deliver on your passion or deliver on your talent. And so unless, and social media is such a big one because it has become a huge part of everything. The expectation for our business is to be everywhere, pump out all this content. And it's like, you're not a social media influencer. That's not what you signed up for, but you do want your business to do well. And so you're doing all these things, but the end result of that, I'll do it all myself, is actually you're stunting the growth of your business. Calling in and asking for the appropriate help. Yes. It all comes from a good place. It comes from no, I'll figure it out. I'm resourceful, I'm passionate, and I am, guilty of it myself, and I can figure this out. But sometimes it's like, hang on, what could you be doing with that time? What other opportunity could you be realizing? And so, asking for help, is not something that comes naturally to a lot of people. I would say the majority of those that I speak to anyways are more of the, no, I'll figure it out. I'm resourceful. I got this. Yeah. And that's good. It is good. But at times you have to know when asking for help is the right thing to do. And it's not a negative.
Yes. See, Brene Brown talks about it in her, in Dare to Lead, when, of course, it's a leadership book, but a lot of principles from there can be applied in, being entrepreneur. You are a leader, you are an influencer, right? So I can go it alone. It's one of the myths of vulnerability, because this is the place where you need to step in and say, okay, I don't know this. And what usually happens? Usually your inner critic fires up. What do you mean you don't know this? Of course you don't know. You're stupid. You can't do this. Mm-hmm. So we're trying by doing everything. And I don't have any, scientific proof with that. But to a large extent, my gut guess is that when we're trying to learn all these things and trying to do it all alone, is we're trying to prove to our inner critic that we have what it takes to succeed. And when we're asking for help, that means we're weak.
Yes. I think it comes a little bit from, I know if I think back to my own corporate journey, and, there's not that many seats at the table to kind of steal Sheryl Sandberg's message. There's not that many. And so rather than showing weakness, you're like, no, I've got this. I deserve the spot. And so it's you don't want to show the vulnerability. You don't want to show the weakness. You want the spot. And so, but it really has evolved to a lack of community, a lack of the right people doing the right things. And so one of the pieces when I made the transition from corporate to entrepreneur, and one of the reasons that kind of started the podcast is that I love connecting with people who are passionate, who are the experts in their field, and having conversations just like this and digging into, all of these pieces that aren't necessarily, specific to my skill set, knowing what their skill set and their passions. And these are the conversations that it's so nice to connect with really intelligent, passionate people.
Tiffany-Ann, I really agree with you. Is if we stop living closed, but start living,
Yes.
sort of self-expanding way, we can
Yes.
learn from others. Because a lot of times we're coming into these meetings thinking that I don't even know if we have these thoughts in our heads that we need to show up always being super perfect and have all the information and have all the knowledge. Otherwise, nobody's going to pay attention to us. But the more we are open up and the more we lean into actually listening to what others have to say, the more we can start appreciating the fact that, oh, so she's an expert in this and I'm expert in this. How can we do this together? How can we benefit each other? Rather, it's not competition. Nobody has
Right.
it 100%, as in where, our strengths are different. I mean, one of the things I do is working with Gallup strengths, and there's a reason why, they're all mixed up and they're different. We're not cookie cutters. We're all unique in our talents, in our skills, in our experiences, in where we grew up, in our characters, personalities. And only when we start, kind of blending it together, working with each other, learning from each other, we're actually growing. And we start living this almost self-transcendent way. But there's three emotions that actually help us with that, and that one of them is awe, and it's compassion, it's gratitude, and the third one is awe. And sometimes that curiosity, staying curious about the other person and what they're bringing to the table, gives us that even moment of just fully relaxing, realizing, oh wait, I can just now
Mm-hmm.
sit and listen. I don't have to always be on my
Mm-hmm.
toes. But this is that fear telling us in our heads that we're not good enough, that we're, if you don't know this, then you don't deserve that seat at the table. If you're not doing it all and you're not doing it all alone. That was huge for me, learning from some of the vulnerability stuff with Brene Brown, that doing it alone is a myth of vulnerability, and B, it's actually one of the signs of trauma that you experience. Because what do traumatized people usually learn? That they're on their own, that they have nobody that they
Right.
can rely on, that they can trust. So there comes an issue, trust issue. For me, do it all alone, because asking for help is a weakness, was actually a message I received from my grandmother. But that message made sense for her. She grew up in communist Poland, first, Second World War, then communist Poland. She couldn't trust anybody. So she had to, trust
Mm-hmm.
herself or just the closest family. And you don't ask others for help because they're going to
Mm-hmm.
mess you up. They're going to take advantage of you. But that story made sense for her. It's a different story now for me, right?
Right.
So some of the stuff that we're saying in our heads are a result of the stories we're telling ourselves. Things that, yeah,
Yes, absolutely. I think it comes down to taking the stories and deciding what you want them to mean. The story itself doesn't dictate what happens next. It's taking that and I'm kind of the analytical brain, and I always think it's the same thing to me as, you have a bunch of data and it's a bunch of numbers and all of these things. But that doesn't actually, like, it's actually taking the numbers and the data and digesting them and deciding and analyzing,
right.
what does it mean? What does that change for the future? And it's the same thing with our stories and our past, and deciding what happens
It's
next. Taking that and learning and
it's the
moving
same thing
ahead.
with fear. Oh wait, I'm afraid. Of course I'm afraid. It's not letting it
Yes.
run you, rather you're allowing you're allowing that emotion to go through you, and you're going, oh, of course I'm doing something new. Yeah, it's natural. I'm a human, therefore I am afraid, because I am what? I am growing. Seeing fear as something that is here to protect you. And because it's protecting you, it has
Mm-hmm.
your best interest in mind. So if you can actually stop for that moment and go, oh, yeah, it makes sense. What can I be thankful for in this moment? What can I learn from that fear? I can be thankful I'm growing. I'm learning new things. I'm going to be on podcast. I'm going to be on TED Talk. I'm going to, publish
Mm-hmm.
my first book. I'm going to publish my first article on LinkedIn. Whatever it is, it suggests, if
Yes.
you're afraid, it suggests you're growing, you're expanding your comfort zone. And that's something good, something to be thankful for,
Yes.
And taking that deep breath of saying, oh, okay, yeah. And then taking time to kind of, reflect. It's like, what am I afraid of? What am I really afraid of here?
One of the things, it makes me think back to almost leaving school, really. And I was so shy. There were times where people would speak to me and I would remember and I would freeze. And they would look at me like, "Are you going to reply?" And I'm like, I can't speak. I really can't speak." And so, I ended up one of the first things I did after school was I was a nanny. And so I was working with children and I absolutely loved it, but I wasn't able to do that and go back to university. So I made the transition. I said, well, I need to work at night so I can go to school during the day. And what am I going to do? And so I thought, well, I think I can be a server. I can do this. But I thought, oh boy, I'm really shy. But I also thought, you know what? If it's a job in your mindset, if you have a job to do, it's a little bit different. And so I thought, well, I'm going to have to walk up to people and ask them if they want something to
Yeah,
drink because that's the expectation. And so I ended up getting this job at this scuzzy bar about 2 towns over from me. And I had no experience, and I started on a Friday night at 10 o'clock. And it was like, okay, I honestly, I remember sitting in my car thinking, I don't even want to go in. I don't want to go in. I don't know. This is terrible. But I went in, and I remember there was a couple of the other servers who did not want to talk to me. They clearly were like a little clique, and I was like, oh, what am I doing here? This is crazy. Why am I here? Why am I pretending that I am somebody I'm not? But I kept going, and I ended up making some amazing friends there. I worked there for a year and a half, made all sorts of great money, and went to school and did all of the other things. But I reflect back and I think that moment of deciding, no, I am going to keep going, even though, let me tell you, I would have rather done just about anything else. I can still remember it like it was
yeah,
yesterday. But that moment of continuing and saying, no, I'm going to do it. And ultimately, I mean, had I never done something like that, would I be here? Would I be podcasting? Would I be, doing Facebook lives and all this kinds of things? I don't know. At one point I had to take that
yeah,
leap from super shy and unable to speak to
right,
I'm doing it
yeah.
anyway. And so,
This is beautiful.
yes,
Oh, that's an amazing story.
yeah,
But it's
definitely.
it's fun when you were talking about it. I was thinking about what you also said before about the fact that you have an analytical mind, and that you have all the numbers
Yes,
is data, and it's just basically data. I was thinking, feelings. Our feelings are the data for our heart. That is also data.
yes,
It's so we
yes,
can we can treat it as data. It's like, oh, I'm feeling angry now. What's going on? Right? Oh, I am happy now. What happened with that? Because it works both ways, right? Tend to analyze only the good,
yes,
that the feelings that make us feel uncomfortable. But the truth is, all the positive feelings, or the ones that suggest that our needs are met, they're data as well. Something big happened, right? Something that you can
yes,
celebrate happened, something
yes,
that you can be proud of happened. So those are data for us as well. And if we are, as Brene Brown says, feeling machines that think, that's a very valuable data right there.
yes. Wow, Renata's dropping value here today. That is It is such a crazy thought. Like, when you say it like that, it's like, yes, that makes so much sense. Oh my gosh, yes. Okay, so where can people connect with you if they are wanting more of this messaging? Where can they connect
Well,
with you?
I'm present on all the three basic social media. I am on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. The best way to connect with me is through those. I have my professional page on Facebook, and obviously the Instagram is also personal. It's not a personal profile; it's a business profile. So it's open. It's all Renata. It's Renata Constable. Yeah. I will. You probably will be posting some links. Um,
Yes, I'll add the links
yeah,
in the
and
show notes.
I do have a YouTube channel, but I'm full disclosure right now. I actually hit breaks on a YouTube channel about a month ago, and I want to take a different direction. So if you go there and you see that nothing has been posted for a while, it's a good reason behind it. I actually am honestly figuring out the voice I want to have on YouTube, and I am learning how to edit things,
Yes.
and I want to add more stuff to it rather than just being a talking head. So there is stuff there already about emotions and about empathy, self-empathy, and there is stuff about redoing our stories with actual practical, advice, as in grabbing colorful Sharpies and having on a piece of paper old stories. What are the new stories that I'm doing? The old data, the new data. And yeah,
Awesome.
those are the best ways to find me.
That's fantastic. So let's leave with one tangible tip someone can implement today that will see an effect on their life tomorrow.
Well,
What
for
is
me,
that for
it's
you?
always that one breath. So every time, and I recently been through a super intense business training where there was a lot of fear and discomfort, and I was pushed and pulled, and I was kicking and screaming, doing things I did not want to do. But for the first 3 weeks of the course, I was doing it, ignoring all these symptoms, and I forgot to breathe. And then in the second part of that course, I remembered to breathe, as in when I hit the wall of, I'm afraid, I don't want to do it, I am never doing it again, I want to give up, and I'm throwing in my gloves. That's when I decided to do some self-compassion. And it starts always with the one breath. Because remember, when you are feeling afraid, it's your natural system's response. And what's doing, it's flooding you and telling you, get out of here, or pretend you're not here, or freeze, or fight. So what you want to do is take a deep breath and say, okay, I am afraid. Receive the data. And then later on, you can reflect on it. What am I afraid of? What do I actually need to move on? And how can I get that resource? You start with the breath, the, 3 breaths. It could be, what is it? Smelling roses. That's you're in, and exhale by, how we call it, with the candles on the, oh my gosh, the candles on a birthday cake. What's the word? Yeah,
Oh,
but
the
what do you do?
birthday cake.
Blow them out. Yeah, you
Blow
smell
them
the
out.
roses and you're blowing out the candles. Or my favorite is drawing squares. You breathe in on 4, you hold it for 4, you breathe out on 4, and you let it go on 4. But breathing, seriously, whatever stressful moment, the door to freedom, to that self-compassion, to that gratitude is always breath. And that's easy. You can do it anywhere.
Thank you so much. That's yes. Anywhere, anytime, when that fear, that discomfort hits, I love that. Smell the roses and blow out the candles. What a great analogy. Thank you so much. So much. So many valuable points here. I cannot wait to share the
Thank you,
episode.
Tiffany-Ann. Thank you so much for your invitation. It was
So thank you
fun.
for
I
joining.
love the data analogy. I'm taking data with me.
Well, we are all out of time for today. If you guys have not joined the Service-Based Business Society Facebook community, make sure you head on over to Facebook and we can continue the conversation. Be sure to also follow the show by going to any podcast app and searching Service-Based Business Society. Click subscribe, click the 5th star, and leave us a written review. Have a great week, and we will see you soon.